What if the Great Pyramid has been hiding evidence in plain sight for more than 4,000 years? What if the markings found deep inside its sealed shafts were never just construction notes, but clues to a forgotten engineering system that modern researchers still struggle to explain? For generations, the world has been told a simple story. Massive ramps, countless workers, and millions of stone blocks slowly assembled into one of humanity's greatest monuments. Yet buried inside the pyramid are discoveries that continue to raise uncomfortable questions. Hidden chambers, unexplained voids, ancient texts, precision measurements that seem almost impossible for their age. Tonight, the investigation follows the evidence itself. Not legends, not fantasy. Just the strange discoveries, unexplained inscriptions, and unanswered mysteries that continue to surround the greatest monument ever built. In 1993, an event occurred inside the Great Pyramid of Giza that would reignite one of archaeology's most enduring debates. German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a robotic explorer into the narrow southern shaft of the Queen's Chamber. The passage was far too small for a human being to enter, making robotic exploration the only practical option. As the machine advanced through the limestone tunnel, it transmitted images from a location no human eyes had seen since ancient times. Then the robot stopped. At the end of the shaft stood a small limestone door equipped with 2 copper fittings. The discovery immediately attracted international attention. The feature appeared deliberate, carefully constructed, and completely sealed. But there was something else. Along portions of the shaft walls, faint red markings could be seen. At first glance, they resembled simple construction marks. However, their location deep inside an inaccessible passage made them particularly intriguing. Why place markings in an area that would never be seen again once the pyramid was completed? The discovery generated excitement among researchers because these symbols were not decorative artwork. They appeared functional, practical, the kind of writing associated with workers, engineers, and administrators rather than priests performing religious ceremonies. For nearly a century, the accepted explanation for pyramid construction had remained largely unchanged. According to the conventional model, enormous teams of laborers transported stone blocks using sledges and ramps. It is a theory supported by significant archaeological evidence and remains the dominant explanation today. Yet the markings inside the shaft hinted at a more detailed story. They suggested planning, organization, and precise control over materials, moving through one of the largest construction projects in human history. The mystery deepened because the shaft itself was never intended as a public space. It was hidden deep within the monument, sealed away from visitors, and protected from the outside world for thousands of years. If these symbols were merely routine construction notes, why place them here? And if they recorded something more important, what exactly were the ancient builders trying to preserve? Those questions would only become more fascinating when later investigations pushed beyond Gantenbrink's famous door and revealed discoveries that few people had ever heard about. The red markings inside the pyramid shafts are important because they do not appear in a public chamber, on a temple wall, or in a place designed to impress visitors, but instead they appear in a narrow sealed passage, where only builders, planners, or inspectors could have left them before the structure was closed forever. That detail changes the meaning of the discovery, because markings hidden inside a sealed shaft are less likely to be ceremonial decoration, and more likely to be practical notes connected to construction, alignment, measurement, or the placement of stone. Some researchers have argued that these markings resemble hieratic writing, the faster and more practical script used in ancient Egypt for records, work notes, deliveries, and administration, which makes their presence inside a hidden construction space especially interesting. If the marks were simply random signs left by workers, then they still prove that teams were operating with organized instructions inside the pyramid's internal structure. But if they were measurements or placement references, then they suggest an even more advanced level of planning. The Great Pyramid was not built from a few large stones stacked into a simple shape. because it contains roughly 2.3 million stone blocks, many weighing between 2 and 2.5 tons, arranged into a structure whose base stretches about 230 meters on each side. Even more astonishing, the base was leveled with extraordinary accuracy across that enormous distance, and the monument was aligned extremely close to the true cardinal directions, which means the builders were not only moving heavy material, but also controlling geometry, surveying, and long-distance measurement with remarkable skill. This is where the hidden markings become more than a curiosity, because in a project where every mistake could multiply across millions of stones, small notes, symbols, and measurements may have been essential parts of a larger construction system. The official explanation does not need to be rejected in order to appreciate the mystery, because ramps, sledges, labor crews, and careful organization could explain much of the work, yet the precision of the pyramids still forces a deeper question. How did the builders coordinate such a massive project with such consistency? And why do some of the most intriguing clues appear in sealed spaces that were never meant to be seen again? In 2013, archaeologists working at Wadi al-Jarf near the Red Sea made one of the most important discoveries ever connected to the Great Pyramid, when they uncovered ancient papyri that included the diary of an official named Merer. This document is powerful because it is not a legend written thousands of years later, and it is not a mysterious inscription carved in a hidden chamber, but a practical administrative record from the time of Pharaoh Khufu, the ruler traditionally credited with building the Great Pyramid. The diary describes workers, boats, transportation schedules, and the movement of limestone blocks from the quarries toward Giza, giving modern researchers a rare glimpse into the logistics behind one of the largest building projects in ancient history. For those who support the conventional model, the Diary of Merer is strong evidence that the pyramid was built by organized Egyptian labor under Khufu's administration, and that the stones were transported through a carefully managed system of waterways, crews, and delivery routes. But even this practical record adds depth to the mystery rather than ending it, because moving stones to Giza was only one part of the challenge. While lifting them into position, aligning them with precision, and maintaining the structure's geometry over millions of blocks required a level of coordination that remains deeply impressive. The diary proves that the pyramid was not the result of chaos, myth, or random effort, because it shows a state-run operation with records, supervisors, transport teams, and a chain of supply moving materials toward the construction site. At the same time, the diary does not explain every technical detail of how the stones were raised and fitted, which leaves room for continued debate about ramps, internal passages, counterweight systems, levering methods, and other engineering possibilities. This is why the Great Pyramid remains so compelling, because every new discovery seems to answer one question while opening another, and every practical record reminds us that the builders were not primitive laborers blindly dragging stones, but skilled organizers working within a highly developed engineering culture. For centuries, scholars believed that the internal structure of the Great Pyramid was largely understood, because explorers had already mapped its major chambers, corridors, and passageways. Yet in 2017, a scientific project revealed that the monument was still hiding a secret, large enough to surprise the entire archaeological world. The discovery came from the Scan Pyramids project, an international research effort that used muon tomography, a technology capable of detecting hidden spaces inside massive stone structures by tracking subatomic particles that naturally pass through matter. Unlike traditional excavation, which requires drilling or physical entry, muon scanning allows researchers to look deep inside a monument without damaging it, making it one of the most powerful investigative tools available for studying ancient architecture. When scientists analyzed the data, they identified a previously unknown void located above the Grand Gallery, one of the pyramid's most important internal passageways. The hidden space appeared to be at least 30 meters long, making it one of the largest unexplained features ever discovered inside the structure. What immediately attracted attention was not simply the size of the void, but the fact that no existing theory fully predicted its presence. Engineers understand why certain chambers exist, why relieving spaces were constructed above critical rooms, and why specific passages connect different sections of the monument. Yet this newly discovered void did not fit neatly into any established explanation. Some researchers suggested that it might be a structural feature designed to reduce pressure within the pyramid, while others proposed that it could represent an unfinished chamber, a construction corridor, or a space connected to engineering functions that are still poorly understood. The important point is not that the void proves any extraordinary theory, because no evidence currently supports sensational claims, but rather that one of the most studied structures on Earth still contains significant features that have not been fully explained. That reality alone demonstrates how much remains unknown. The Great Pyramid has been investigated by explorers, archaeologists, engineers, architects, physicists, and surveyors for generations. Yet modern technology continues to uncover new information hidden inside its stone core. Every new discovery serves as a reminder that the monument still has secrets, and those secrets continue to fuel debates about how such an astonishing structure was planned and constructed more than 4,000 years ago. The mystery surrounding the Great Pyramid is not based solely on hidden chambers or unexplored spaces, because even the visible portions of the monument contain engineering achievements that continue to impress modern specialists. The structure originally stood nearly 147 meters tall and was built using millions of stone blocks arranged with extraordinary consistency across an enormous footprint. Its four sides are aligned remarkably close to true north, south, east, and west, while the foundation itself remains level within only a few centimeters across a distance of approximately 230 meters. Those numbers may sound simple when read from a page, but engineers understand that maintaining such precision over a project of this scale is an immense challenge even with modern equipment. Surveying errors accumulate over distance, small misalignments grow larger as construction progresses, and every tiny deviation can affect the final geometry of a structure. Yet the builders of the Great Pyramid managed to control those variables with a degree of success that still commands respect today. The stone blocks themselves contribute to the puzzle because many were cut and fitted with impressive accuracy, creating joints so tight that observers often remark on the craftsmanship involved. This does not mean the ancient Egyptians possessed impossible technology, nor does it mean modern science cannot explain the construction, but it does highlight the extraordinary capabilities of the engineers, planners, surveyors, and laborers responsible for the project. The true mystery may not be whether the pyramid could be built using ancient methods, because history repeatedly demonstrates what determined societies can achieve through organization and skill, but rather how those methods were refined to such a high level of efficiency. Every measurement points toward a civilization that understood planning on a massive scale. Every alignment suggests careful observation of the natural world. Every fitted stone reflects knowledge gained through experience, experimentation, and generations of accumulated expertise. The more closely researchers examine the monument, the more impressive it becomes, because the Great Pyramid is not merely a collection of heavy stones stacked into a geometric shape, but a carefully engineered structure whose precision continues to challenge assumptions about the limits of ancient construction. Just a short distance from the Great Pyramid stands another monument that has generated decades of controversy. Because while the pyramids dominate the skyline, the Great Sphinx continues to raise questions that reach far beyond its massive stone body. Carved directly from the bedrock of the Giza Plateau, the Sphinx is one of the largest and most recognizable sculptures ever created. Yet its true history remains the subject of intense debate among archaeologists, geologists, and independent researchers. The conventional view associates the monument with the 4th dynasty and links it to Pharaoh Khafre, whose pyramid complex stands nearby. But some researchers have argued that the erosion patterns visible on the enclosure walls surrounding the Sphinx may point toward a much older origin. One of the most widely discussed voices in this debate is geologist Robert Schoch, who examined the weathering patterns on the enclosure and concluded that portions of the erosion appear more consistent with prolonged rainfall than with wind and sand alone. This observation became controversial because the Giza Plateau has been dominated by desert conditions for thousands of years, meaning that if significant rainfall erosion occurred after the enclosure was carved, the monument could potentially be older than traditionally believed. Many Egyptologists disagree with this interpretation and argue that other geological processes can account for the observed weathering, creating a debate that has continued for decades without reaching universal agreement. What makes the discussion so fascinating is that it extends beyond the age of a single monument and touches on broader questions regarding the development of civilization in ancient Egypt. If the conventional timeline is correct, then the Sphinx represents an extraordinary achievement of the Old Kingdom. If alternative interpretations eventually prove accurate, then historians may need to reconsider aspects of early Egyptian development. At present, no definitive evidence has resolved the issue completely, which is why the Sphinx remains one of the most discussed monuments in the ancient world. Like the Great Pyramid, it stands at the center of a conversation where established explanations, new research, and unanswered questions continue to collide. While attention is often focused on the monuments visible above ground, another mystery lies beneath the surface of the Giza Plateau, where multiple surveys over the years have identified anomalies that continue to attract scientific interest. Modern researchers have used technologies such as ground-penetrating radar, seismic imaging, and subsurface scanning to investigate what may exist below the ancient structures, without disturbing them through excavation. These techniques work by sending signals into the ground and measuring the reflections that return, allowing scientists to identify changes in density, hidden cavities, buried walls, and other underground features. Several surveys have reported anomalies beneath portions of the plateau, including areas near the Sphinx enclosure. An anomaly does not automatically mean that a hidden chamber exists, because natural geological formations can sometimes produce similar readings. Yet unusual patterns often justify additional investigation. This is where speculation frequently enters the discussion. Some theories suggest that buried rooms, tunnels, archives, or ceremonial spaces may still exist beneath Giza, while others argue that many of the detected anomalies will eventually prove to be natural formations within the limestone bedrock. The challenge is that remote sensing technology can identify targets of interest, but only direct exploration can determine exactly what those targets are. As a result, every radar image tends to generate excitement, because it presents possibilities without immediately providing answers. For decades, stories have circulated about hidden libraries, lost chambers, and forgotten repositories of knowledge concealed beneath the plateau. Most of these claims remain unsupported by hard evidence, yet the continued discovery of unexplored spaces elsewhere in Egypt prevents the subject from disappearing completely. Archaeology has repeatedly demonstrated that major discoveries can occur in places previously believed to be fully understood. Entire tombs, temples, settlements, and burial complexes have been uncovered after centuries of investigation, often changing accepted historical narratives in the process. Because of that history, researchers continue to examine Giza with increasingly advanced technology, hoping that future discoveries may reveal new information about the people who planned, built, and maintained one of the most extraordinary landscapes ever created by human hands. Whether those investigations uncover hidden chambers or simply deepen our understanding of known structures, the search itself highlights an important truth. The Giza Plateau is not merely an ancient tourist destination frozen in time, but an active scientific frontier where new discoveries remain possible, even in the 21st century. As researchers continue to investigate the physical evidence surrounding the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, another layer of the mystery emerges from ancient texts, royal records, and fragments of traditions that have survived for thousands of years. Among the most frequently discussed documents is the Westcar Papyrus, a collection of stories preserved from ancient Egypt that centers on wisdom, royal authority, and extraordinary events associated with the early pharaohs. Although the text is often treated as literature rather than a historical record, it remains valuable because it provides insight into how ancient Egyptians viewed knowledge, power, and the achievements of their ancestors. What makes the document particularly intriguing is that it repeatedly presents the idea that certain forms of knowledge were carefully protected and passed only to selected individuals. Creating a recurring theme that appears throughout Egyptian history, the ancient Egyptians placed enormous importance on sacred knowledge, architectural expertise, astronomy, mathematics, and religious tradition, believing that some information was too important to be widely distributed. This concept is not unusual when viewed in a historical context, because many civilizations preserve specialized knowledge within priesthoods, royal courts, or professional guilds. Another document that often enters discussions about ancient Egypt is the Turin King List, a damaged papyrus containing the names of rulers and dynasties stretching deep into the past. The surviving fragments include references that some researchers interpret as describing rulers who existed before the recognized dynastic period, giving rise to debates about how ancient Egyptians viewed their own origins. Within later traditions, stories appear concerning figures sometimes called the followers of Horus, mysterious predecessors who were believed to have existed before the historical pharaohs. To mainstream scholars, these figures are generally viewed as mythological or symbolic representations, rather than evidence of a forgotten advanced civilization. However, alternative researchers argue that such traditions may preserve distant memories of real populations that lived in Egypt before the formation of the dynastic state. The evidence remains inconclusive, yet the persistence of these stories is remarkable because they demonstrate that even the ancient Egyptians themselves looked backward toward an earlier age that they regarded with reverence. Whether these accounts describe historical events, symbolic traditions, or a mixture of both, they reveal something important about the mindset of one of history's greatest civilizations. The builders of Egypt did not believe they existed at the beginning of history. They believed they inherited knowledge from those who came before. That idea continues to fascinate modern audiences because it raises a question that archaeology is still attempting to answer. How much of humanity's earliest history remains hidden beyond the limits of surviving records? Few monuments in human history have generated as much discussion as the Great Pyramid, and perhaps the reason is simple. Every generation arrives believing it is finally close to solving the mystery, only to discover new evidence that complicates the picture once again. For some researchers, the pyramid represents the ultimate demonstration of what a highly organized ancient society could accomplish through determination, engineering, and labor on an unprecedented scale. For others, the monument contains features that suggest important pieces of the story have not yet been discovered. The debate often becomes polarized, with one side insisting that every mystery has already been explained, and the other claiming that impossible technologies once existed. Yet the reality is far more complex. History shows that extraordinary achievements do not require supernatural explanations, but it also shows that major discoveries frequently emerge when accepted assumptions are challenged by new evidence. The Great Pyramid occupies a unique position because it sits at the intersection of archaeology, engineering, astronomy, geology, and human imagination. Scientists continue to study its internal structure. Engineers continue to analyze its construction methods, Historians continue to examine ancient records, and each new investigation adds another piece to a puzzle that remains incomplete. The hidden void above the Grand Gallery still invites further research. The internal shafts continue to attract scientific interest. The Sphinx remains the subject of ongoing geological debate. Subsurface anomalies beneath the Giza Plateau continue to be examined using increasingly advanced technologies. None of these facts prove sensational theories, yet none of them eliminate the possibility that future discoveries may significantly expand our understanding of ancient Egypt. That is what makes the story so compelling. The mystery survives not because evidence is absent, but because evidence continues to accumulate while complete answers remain elusive. More than 4,000 years after its construction, the Great Pyramid still challenges assumptions, inspires investigation, and reminds humanity that the ancient world may have been far more sophisticated than many people once imagined. Every stone, every chamber, every inscription, and every unexplored space contributes to a story that is still being written today. After centuries of exploration, decades of scientific research, and countless attempts to explain every aspect of its construction, the Great Pyramid continues to occupy a unique place in human history. Because the more evidence researchers uncover, the more they realize that this monument is not becoming less remarkable with time, but increasingly impressive as new discoveries reveal layers of complexity that earlier generations could scarcely imagine. The markings hidden within sealed shafts, the ancient records preserved in Merer's diary, the massive void discovered above the Grand Gallery, the ongoing geological debates surrounding the Sphinx, and the unexplained anomalies detected beneath the Giza Plateau may not all point toward the same conclusion. Yet together, they demonstrate that important questions about ancient Egypt remain unanswered, and that some of the world's most famous archaeological sites still have the potential to surprise modern science. What makes the Great Pyramid so extraordinary is not the claim that it was built using impossible technology or mysterious forces beyond human understanding, but the fact that ancient engineers, working thousands of years ago with the resources available to them, were capable of planning and executing a project of such scale, precision, and durability that it continues to challenge researchers, architects, and engineers in the modern world. Its creators did far more than stack millions of stone blocks into a monumental shape, because they produced a structure whose alignment, geometry, and construction quality have survived natural disasters, environmental change, political upheaval, foreign invasions, and the rise and fall of countless civilizations, allowing the monument to endure while entire kingdoms vanished from history, and the societies that once dominated the ancient world gradually faded into memory. Throughout the centuries, people have viewed the Great Pyramid through very different lenses, with ancient travelers regarding it as a wonder beyond comparison, medieval scholars treating it as a source of mystery and speculation, and modern researchers approaching it as one of the greatest engineering achievements ever accomplished. While each generation has added new questions to the discussion, without fully exhausting the monument's ability to inspire curiosity. As technology continues to advance, and new investigative methods become available, future discoveries may reveal chambers that have never been entered, inscriptions that have never been fully understood, or structural features that provide entirely new insights into the methods and knowledge of the builders. And although nobody can predict exactly what those discoveries will reveal, history has repeatedly shown that major breakthroughs often emerge from places that were once believed to have surrendered all of their secrets. Perhaps the most important lesson offered by the Great Pyramid is not hidden inside an unexplored passageway or concealed beneath the desert sands, but reflected in the monument itself, because it stands as a powerful reminder that human intelligence, organization, ambition, and perseverance are capable of producing achievements so extraordinary that they continue to inspire wonder thousands of years after the people responsible for them have disappeared from the world. For that reason, The Great Pyramid remains more than an archaeological site, more than a tourist destination, and more than a relic of a distant civilization, because it continues to serve as an invitation to explore, to question, and to push beyond accepted assumptions in the search for a deeper understanding of humanity's past, while reminding us that some of history's greatest mysteries remain unsolved, not because answers are impossible to find, but because the journey toward those answers is still unfolding. More than 4,000 years after its construction, the Great Pyramid continues to dominate not only the landscape of Giza, but also the imagination of people around the world. Because despite generations of exploration, scientific investigation, and archaeological research, it remains one of the few monuments capable of inspiring both admiration and mystery on an almost equal scale. Every newly discovered chamber, every ancient inscription, every technological survey, and every unanswered question adds another layer to a story that is still evolving, reminding us that history is not a completed book but an ongoing investigation in which each generation has the opportunity to uncover evidence that previous generations could not access or fully understand. Whether future discoveries ultimately confirm the prevailing theories of pyramid construction, or reveal details that force historians to revise parts of the accepted narrative, the Great Pyramid will continue to stand as one of humanity's most extraordinary achievements, demonstrating what can be accomplished when knowledge, organization, engineering skill, and long-term vision come together in pursuit of a goal larger than any single individual. The search for answers is far from over, and that may be the very reason why the monument continues to captivate researchers, explorers, historians, and curious minds across the globe, because every attempt to solve one mystery seems to reveal another waiting just beyond it. Thank you for joining this exploration into one of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world. And if you enjoyed this journey through forgotten history, archaeological discoveries, and the enduring mysteries of ancient civilizations, be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join us for future investigations, as we continue searching for the evidence, the stories, and the secrets that history has not yet fully revealed. Until the next discovery, keep questioning what is known, keep exploring what remains hidden, and remember that some of the most fascinating chapters of human history may still be waiting beneath the surface, ready to be uncovered.